In today's video, we are going to be running through my team selection for Game Week 6. We're also going to talk about how I got on in Game Week 5. We're also going to be discussing the best fixtures and teams for you to be targeting on your wildcard this week. And of course, discussing the best captaincy options for you and your team. Now, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 9,000 subscribers by the international break, and it is only possible with your guys' help. So first off, let's take a look at how we got on in Game Week 5. Obviously, we did hit that wildcard button, and I am very, very thankful that we did, achieving our first green arrow of the season, around a 900,000 rank increase. We were very much in the depths of the back of FPL, kind of with, all the kind of, I would say, NPC players. However, I feel we've wildcarded. We're in a really, really good position going forward for the next few weeks. Very happy with how the team did in Game Week 5. Hopefully that continues in Game Week 6 as well. Unfortunately, we did get the captaincy wrong. If we'd have obviously gone for Erling Haaland, there would have been even more gains to be had. Obviously, RAYA conceding right at the end meant he lost 2 bonus as well. If he'd have managed to keep them, we probably would have been on for, I probably would say, around a 1 million rank increase. So my kind of advice for you guys is don't worry too much about your rank early on in the season. It can go up a lot. It can also go down a lot. It's about making those correct decisions over the course of the next coming game weeks to get yourself back on track. And I would say as long as you're within kind of the top 1 million players by Christmas, you still have a really, really good chance of finishing within that top 100k. Because if you play your chips right as well, latter end of the season, you still will be in with a very, very good chance. So if you've not had the best start of the season, maybe now is the time to wildcard and maybe just reset that team. But let's go and look if that is the right strategy for you. Like I said, we have been covering should you wildcard across all of our videos this week and of course our streams as well. And there are 3 big factors for me on why you should be looking to hit that wildcard button this week. Reacting to fixture changes, maybe you don't have easy access to Arsenal, Manchester City, Everton or Brentford players coming up for their amazing fixture swings. Maybe your team is kind of too invested in Liverpool assets. Maybe there's too many Fulham, Newcastle. Over the next few weeks, these teams fall off in terms of their fixtures and teams that you don't really want to be kind of loading up on or targeting. And obviously, if you've not really got a team or any transfers to kind of, make those switches, I definitely think it is worth hitting that wildcard button to go and get some of these teams that have pretty immense fixtures. Building team value as well is another one. I've kind of put this in there for the people that are maybe looking to wildcard in 7 or 8. If you feel like your team is going to look pretty similar to a Game Week 6 wildcard and you feel with the kind of rapid price changes and decreases so far happening this season, you might be priced out of some moves. It could be worth hitting that wildcard button 1 week early, taking full advantage of it. Get yourself in the players that you need to have, especially if you've not had the best start to the season and you are a little bit kind of constrained by the budget that you do have available. And then finally, it is negating those early season mistakes. I obviously didn't go for Erling Haaland at the start of this year. That was a big mistake from myself. It hasn't worked out. And the way that we've kind of remedied that and fixed that is by hitting that wildcard button. Maybe as well for you, maybe you've just got your structure wrong. Maybe you've got some of your premiums wrong or in the wrong area, or you've invested too heavily in the defense. Then again, that probably should be a reason for you to wildcard. I definitely think if you're hitting off 2 of these brackets, I would be looking to hit that wildcard button this game week in Game Week 6. So I hope that clears it up for you, because a lot of people have been asking whether or not I should wildcard my team. Hopefully that does all clear it up for you. Right, let's head on into the 11ified data. That's the wrong one, but we'll start with the 11ified data. Let's go through it. It is the clean sheet percentages for the next 6 game weeks coming up. As we can see, Manchester City and Arsenal absolutely romping it with amazing expected data for the clean sheet department, especially over the next 3 for Arsenal as well. Obviously, people are talking about maybe going for a double up or a triple up with those good defensive data stats. That is definitely on the card. City are still up there despite conceding iffy goals every single week, it does feel like. However, I do feel like they will start to put in some clean sheets this season. They won't concede iffy low XG goals every single week. Liverpool's are interesting. Outside of match day 9, they're still pretty decent. So maybe if you are thinking about going for a Robertson or a Trent on the wild card, there's still decent clean sheet data there to definitely back up that decision as well. Brentford, Everton and Nottingham Forest are the teams that I think you should be looking at in terms of your cheap defenders, the 4.4s, the 4 millions, your 4.5 million goalkeeper if you want to go down that route as well. Forest as well are currently 3rd for XG conceded so far in the league as well. good projected data coming up, so definitely worth investing in their defenders as well. In terms of Brighton, maybe for the people that have got Lewis Dunk and are maybe considering a wild card, or of course Hall as well, with Newcastle and Brighton starting to fall down this list a little bit, definitely start to look to potentially offload some of their assets. Now, I know a lot of people will be looking at Aston Villa all the way down in 14th. For me, I will be holding Ezri Konsa probably up until around match day 10. Maybe I make that switch in match day 8 where United's fixtures do start to pick up as well, but one to consider for future game weeks going forward. Villa, for me, realistically, still have 4 pretty good fixtures in terms of that clean sheet data. Moving on to the next section, it is going to be the Rob T FPL ones, the one that I actually wanted. This is the Game Week 6 projected goals and clean sheet odds. Please go and check him out. Link in the description to his amazing work. As you can see, it has the predicted goals and of course those clean sheets. Standout teams for this week, of course, Arsenal against Leicester. Great projected goals, top of the list. Also for that clean sheet data as well, we saw it with 11ify. They had it at a 56% chance. Rob T FPL with a 55% chance as well. Liverpool up there as well, so could be maybe an iffy week to go and potentially sell off a Mohamed Salah or maybe a Trent or a Robertson with, decent data for this game week. So that one could come back to haunt you as well. I think in terms of that United-Tottenham game as well, I probably would be saying maybe don't play some of my defenders. Maybe play my attackers because clean sheet percentages are definitely not there. However, the projected goals are suggesting that one could be a little bit of a goal fest. I think City away at Newcastle as well, still projected decent goals there, so that could be a decent one. And maybe if you are on that wild card this week, a couple Bournemouth boys for the next 2 might also be worth some consideration with decent clean sheet data and of course decent projected goals. So yeah, please feel free to go and check out Rob T FPL over on Twitter. Great guy, making some amazing content, so please go and give him some love and support. Moving on to the next section, we're back with the 11ify data. This is in terms of projected goals over the next 6 game weeks. And as you can see, again, it's the same kind of sides, if you like, that are kind of grouping towards the top, and I think that makes sense because they realistically are some of the best teams in the league with some of the best fixtures coming up, especially Manchester City and Arsenal. They've got some great fixtures, so I definitely think attacking wise want to be looking at those. City are clear by a good proportion of projected goals here as well. Probably is that match day 9 fixture against Southampton that is definitely projecting them, and I think if I was on a wild card this week, one player that is an absolute must has to be Erling Haaland. Looking at those projected goal numbers, looking at captaincy as well, you would say probably from match day 6 all the way up until match day 11 represents a very, very good captaincy option as well. Interestingly, Liverpool's across the next 6, bar the game against Arsenal in match day 9, are really, really good. So maybe if you're having a few doubts about potentially selling Mohamed Salah for Saka this week, that could be one to potentially reconsider because those projected goals are still decent. Salah's predicted points are pretty decent as well across the board. So maybe one to consider. Tottenham are up there, and I really like some of their great assets. They've got Son, they've got Maddison, who's in fine form, especially in terms of his underlying data as well. And Dominic Solanke, a lot of people looking at him on a wild card, could be a great pickup. United starting to kind of come to fruition as well in terms of their projected data. I think around game week 8 is the fixtures that I will be looking to jump on the Manchester United players. If Garnacho's still playing, if Bruno actually starts to convert some chances as well, could be decent. And then we've got Chelsea and Aston Villa as well. I think both Nicholas Jackson and Watkins in that forward department could also be pretty decent shouts. And then Brentford down in 8th. I think Mbeumo, I nearly said Ivan Toney. Mbeumo is going to be the standout pick with that one. And then as I alluded to, we do want to start to potentially be switching away from Fulham and kind of Crystal Palace players over the next few weeks. Their data is starting to take a little bit of a nosedive with more difficult fixtures coming up. I've seen quite a few drafts with, Emile Smith-Rowe on, people like Jimenez on, and I just think for me personally, I would be starting to look away from these guys with that poor projected data over the next few weeks. Finishing up, let's take a look at captaincy, and obviously we're going to use the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points tool. It has predicted, I think for the past 5 game weeks, the correct kind of highest or best scoring captain as well. It does have Erling Haaland as the top 4 projected points this week. However, Mohamed Salah has definitely creeped up. He originally was at 7.3. He's now increased to 7.8. And I did a tweet earlier in the week looking at all kind of, I would say, the 4 major kind of players within the projected points model. Haaland topped 3 of them. The only one he didn't top was FPL Review. That was topped by Bukayo Saka. Salah, interestingly, across the board, was sat in second place across all of them. Again, we saw with the 11-5 projected data, really good data for all projected goals this week. The Rob FTL data as well was also suggesting good projected goals. So maybe Mohamed Salah could be your captain this week. And that is the way that my mind is split at the moment. I think with Saka playing in the Carabao Cup tonight, that rules him out as a captaincy option for me. It is again between these 2 front runners, Salah and Haaland. Which is the correct way to go? I kind of am leaning a little bit more towards Erling Haaland. I think just because the amount of kind of projected data that is suggesting that he's going to be the best one. It will be interesting to see any time expected goal scorers and kind of the number of kind of multiple goals projections as well when those do come out from Rob T FPL. That will definitely help sway my decision as well. But Salah, man, being that close again with a great fixture, Wolves having some defensive issues in the back line, he could be a stellar potential differential captain. Now, I do feel like the majority will, of course, be going for Erling Haaland, and I do expect his effective ownership to be close and maybe even over 100, with a lot of people looking to sell off Salah this week for Bukayo Saka. So maybe the safe bet, if you have a pretty decent rank, would be to stick with Salah. For Haaland, sorry, but maybe if you are chasing like myself, it could be worth this week taking a little bit of a gamble and going for somebody like Mohamed Salah. But let me know which way you're thinking about potentially swaying in the comments section. I'm currently on Erling Haaland, but I might be swaying to go for Mohamed Salah. Let's see how it kind of looks at the end of the week when the betting data is in. But let's go and take a look at my team selection for Game Week 6. Wasting no time, let's dive into my team selection ahead of Game Week 6. We're going to start off with goalkeepers first, and this potentially could be an area of concern. Now, we have Fabianski on the bench. I'm not really expecting him to play. RAYA isn't in Arsenal's Carabao Cup squad for this evening, and there has been rumours that they are kind of resting him as a precaution after picking up an injury on Sunday against Manchester City. However, from all accounts, it does look like he will be featuring against Leicester this weekend. Again, though, we are going to have to wait and see on Arteta's press conference, as he did allude to one player picking up a serious injury, and we're still not sure who that player is yet. Hopefully it's not RAYA, because I really don't like making goalkeeper transfers. If he was to be out for this weekend, I think I would be kind of swaying maybe to go for Brentford with the good projected data we saw from 11-5 in terms of clean sheets for them, and kind of fund that money elsewhere within the side, because I think it would make the Arsenal defence a lot weaker if they don't have David Raya. I could also just make the switch to obviously 4.3 million Neto, who is going to be the backup goalkeeper for Arsenal as well for Raya, so that could also be an option. Or I could move over to Edison, who is a bit of a troll, but again, the City clean sheet data looks absolutely astonishing for the next few weeks. Again, gives me a really good way into that City back line, but we're going to have to wait and see for any further updates regarding Raya. Moving into the back line, we're going to start off first with Aina. Now, Forest currently sit third for XG conceded across the course of this season so far. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Tom, that's only 5 game weeks worth of data. That's not big enough sample size. If we also look back since Nuno's appointment, they have been one of the best teams for XG conceded. So it's not just a kind of 5 game week trend. There is obviously kind of longevity to that data as well. If I was on a wild card this week, I would be definitely looking at picking up a Nottingham Forest player as well. So I'm happy with the Fulham fixture. Decent clean sheet odds for this one. Robertson, again, we saw with the Rob T FPL data, I think it was the second best for projected clean sheets this week, so very happy to have him in the side. And then Konza as well, there was also a 31% chance of a clean sheet from the Rob T FPL data, beating our other defenders on the bench, both Mikalenko and Greaves, in terms of that data. So I think we've got all our kind of decisions in the defence right from a kind of percentage chance perspective. Let's move on into the midfield. Now we're going to go first with Bukayo Saka. Again, this Arsenal run for the next 3 fixtures is great. The big concern for me, though, is, of course, him playing in the Carabao. That is a real stinker, to be honest. Hopefully he doesn't pick up any injuries. Obviously, if he were to pick up an injury tonight, I probably would make the move to Son I think over the next few weeks, as we saw with that 11-5 projected goal data, that Spurs actually go on a pretty good run for those underlying data. The next two are a little bit iffy, however, longer term, definitely some appetising fixtures. So hopefully Saka can make it through that one. I think with him playing in the Carabao Cup tonight, that definitely rules him out as a captaincy option for me this week. Moving on to our next midfielder, it is going to be Bryan Mbeumo. No real complaints with this one. West Ham defensively were comical at the weekend, and I think Mbeumo could be licking his lips here. Same goes for Rodgers as well. A great performance, rested midweek in the Carabao Cup, so I feel confident about his chances, of course, of playing. Mohamed Salah's in here. He's currently the vice. We obviously was kind of deliberating whether or not to go with him in terms of our captaincy this week. It could be one that does come down very, very late to the wire, and maybe I do make that decision kind of on the plane to Sweden this weekend. So no deadline stream from me. I am off to Sweden for the Stockholm derby, but yeah, that could be an interesting one, a little bit of a dicey one if I'm making last minute changes before I'm about to board a plane. Then finishing up our midfield is going to be Kevin Schade. Now he didn't start the last game for Tottenham, came off the bench for around 27 minutes. I was kind of hoping he'd started because a lot of the Brentford accounts did think he would start, and that is also going to probably be the case this week. However, Cavaleiro started up front, and whether or not that's going to happen again, we're going to have to wait and see, because you would imagine a home fixture, they are probably going to switch to a more attacking 4-3-3, and hopefully he is the number 9. If he's not, then I think, we do have to maybe look at a transfer in this other department and maybe find another player that can rotate around with Jamie Vardy and Calvert-Lewin over the next few weeks. But this is going to be Kevin Schade's first game within the side. He is a 5.4. I'm not expecting the world from him. If he plays and starts, that'll be fine with me. I think against West Ham as well, the way they've started the season, it could be very, very prolific in terms of goals for Brentford as well this week. Moving on to our two forwards. First up is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If we look at XG conceded, Crystal Palace aren't the same defence they were last season. There's definitely been a drop-off, and I don't know whether that's losing personnel or maybe some tactical switches that the manager has made. But I do fancy Calvert-Lewin to go and do something in this game as well. I think with Branthwaite being back, obviously Mikalenko back within the side as well, I think there's going to be a real big confidence boost for this Everton side, and I definitely think that draw against Leicester, maybe he's just steadied the ship a little bit. They need to just start putting some points on the board. They've got an absolutely fantastic run coming up, and I do really like him as an option. Finishing up our squad and our starting striker, it is going to be Erling Haaland. He's currently got the armband, like we saw with the projected points. He is top on the Fantasy Football Hub model. Newcastle as well, out of Leicester, Wolves, and of course Newcastle are the lowest in terms of XG conceded so far this season. It is away from home, but so's Salah's fixture as well, so we don't really have an advantage with that one. Looking at head-to-head records as well, there's not really, again, too much to kind of split between both Erling Haaland and Mohamed Salah. I do think he will be the most captain player this week. Obviously, the projected points are suggesting he will be the top player, and I think he could be a great option, but I am tempted by going with Mohamed Salah, so maybe wait and see. Drop me a follow on Twitter as well. It will flash above my head at some point, or a link in the description to find out which way I do go with my captaincy. And then finishing up on the bench, Jamie Vardy is there if we do need him. However, I'm not expecting too much from that game against Arsenal away. That was my team selection ahead of Game Week 6. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as we will try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in Game Week 6.